Welcome to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the place to get a dose of empowerment to create the life you crave and deserve. I'm your host, Amy Beltran, CEO and founder of Irresistible University. Through my online programs, I teach women just like you how to ditch the body image issues, gain confidence, and lose the emotional weight to look and feel irresistible at any size. Welcome back to this week's episode, guys. I am actually recording this episode I'm still in my office, but I am sitting on the floor because I have no chair, I have no desk, and there are boxes and things that I have to sort into piles to donate or trash. And it's just a whole hot mess. Moving has been quite an experience. This is not the first time I've moved, but it's the first time I've moved from a home that I owned because before this, my husband and I rented our townhome, and it was just us and Chewy, and we didn't have many things. We had our townhouse was probably half this size, and we just didn't have all the things that we have now. We didn't have a daughter, we didn't have a baby on the way, so it's so crazy how every move that we have done together, um, you just you accumulate more things. I remember the first time him and I moved together, we were actually the same apartment complex, but we had to move one street over because they were making renovations. And we literally moved all of our things like in our truck between our truck and then us just walking things over like a couple times. This is like back in the day. We didn't even have a Christmas tree together. It was like that just early relationship. You don't have a lot of things together. And we're not even the type of people that like stuff. I don't like having a lot of stuff. I don't like to have clutter. So been so interesting to me. Um, as we think, oh, okay, we're almost done. And then I go in the office and I open the closet and I go, oh my God, like this is never going to end. So it's just such an interesting process. And we were moving literally all weekend. We're essentially going to have to move twice. So we have to be out of our current home by the end of the week. So we're trying to get everything out of here so that we can, do a cleaning and all that kind of stuff. And then everything is going into storage. And then when we close on our new house, then we will have to move again. The good news about that move is we won't have to be as quick about things. We can kind of move things in as we want to. So we can paint and work on we want to do some updating and such in the new home. Anyway, as I was moving all weekend, it really got me thinking about, because I'm always thinking about you guys. I'm always thinking about the podcast and my clients and my program and how can I create new content? How can I connect the dots here? And I love when things just come to me naturally like that. And it was so funny because while we were moving this weekend, I started thinking about how the process of packing up your home after we've been here 9 years, the amount of things that we've accumulated over 9 years that we use every day, and then also all the things that we're like, why were we hanging on to this? I didn't even know this was in the closet. It got me thinking about how I could connect that to the process of learning how to love yourself. And I would say the number one question that I get literally every single day via email or DM is, "Hey, Amy, I really want to know how to love myself." And I know that you're coming from a good place asking that. I know everyone truly wants to know how to love themselves. They want to love themselves. But I think a lot of times we want an easy answer to that question. It's like, here's Amy. She does this podcast. She, has a program that she runs. This is what she teaches. This is what she knows how to do. Let me ask. I want an easy answer. I'm not saying everybody wants an easy answer, but I think as humans, that's kind of where we just want to know how to do it. And I want it to be this easy black and white answer. And my heart kind of breaks each time because I'm like, I can't give you this easy, do this and you'll love yourself answer. And it's kind of like the moving process, right? So let me just explain what I mean. So I go into one of the closets yesterday And we've got 9 years worth of stuff just in the closet. And even before the 9 years, when we moved from our townhome that we had together, there were some things that we moved that, how you say, and I just like giggle when we're saying this now as we're moving. I'm like, yeah, right. You know how you'll say to each other, oh, we'll get to that. Like, let's just move it and then we'll figure out what to do with it. Well, the problem with that is, as you know, quite often we say, oh, that box right there, let's figure it out at the new house. So you move it, it goes in the back of the closet, and then other things go on top. That box goes on top, this box goes on top, this blanket, this pillow set, this, and that. And next thing you know, you forget that it's even there. And you don't revisit that until you are moving or you do like a deep, spring cleaning or something, and you're totally like organizing your closets. And it's a lot like the process of loving yourself. Because in order to learn how to love yourself, it's a lot like pulling out all the boxes that you've been stuffing away for so many years. And the boxes that we stuff away are traumas. They are, bullying, name calling, incidents that have happened to us that were too painful experiences that we just put it over there in the corner and I'll deal with it later. That's the equivalent of what you've been doing with your emotions over the years. And the boxes that you throw on top of it are life, just getting back in the monotony of life, staying busy, doing things for other people, eating, emotional eating. Those are all the little boxes that you stuff on top of the pain that got you there in the first place. That pain box that you stuff in the corner. Okay, that's what we're going to call it. And it's just like that because, you may kind of, sort of forget that all that stuff back there, but it's also the reason why you don't want to open the closet and deal with it. Because I hope you're following my metaphor here, guys. When you open that closet, there's all these boxes you got to now open up and deal with and decide, do I hang on to this? Is this serving me well in some way? Am I going to hang on to this, or am I going to donate it, or I'm going to trash it? And I think it's the same way with your emotions. If you look at your emotions and think of them as little boxes, maybe you have a bullying box, you have a trauma, you have an assault box, you have just a death, a death that happened in the family. I want you to think about your painful emotions that you have not wanted to deal with. Because we're not born into the world not loving ourselves. I mean, guys, I look at my daughter from the time she was born. She's 3.5 now. This little girl, you can't tell her nothing. She loves herself. And when you are a baby and a toddler, you literally think the world revolves around you. Babies and kids are just very self-centered, not in a negative way, but it's just they don't know any different. And somewhere along your path, maybe it was at 2 years old. It could have been earlier than that. Maybe it's at 3 years old. Maybe it's when you started school. Somewhere along your path, you started to box some things up. And it's like something got taken away from you. Your self-esteem, your self-worth, your self-love, your confidence. And those things get taken, whether it's by a trauma, by bullying, by something that happened to you, something you witnessed, a divorce from your parents. Everybody's trauma looks very different. And I want to be very clear here that trauma doesn't mean that it doesn't have to just mean. So let me just explain. So when I years ago started into therapy to get myself together, I didn't realize what different traumas were. I always just thought, oh, trauma, that's someone who saw a murder or who has been raped or just these really horrible things. And there's like a spectrum of different types of trauma. Bullying is trauma. And I didn't know that at the time. And I was severely bullied as a child in school, and I didn't even realize that was lumped under the trauma category. And that was just one of the boxes I had to deal with, one of the many boxes. So when I say trauma, I want you to think about, if your parents divorced when you were very young, that is trauma. If you witnessed something, if you were told something inappropriate by an adult, even if that adult didn't touch you, that is trauma. There's different levels. So I want you to think of your pains and your traumas and your experiences as these little boxes. Some boxes are bigger, some are smaller, and you have been stacking these boxes away in the closet over the years. And you're putting on top of the boxes your emotional eating, your bullshit, you're busy as a bullshit badge of honor on top of it, your people pleasing. All of those things that you're doing are distractions from dealing with your own shit. Okay? And it's the same thing. That you think about like that metaphor I felt like was so strong because I'm like, this is what we do with our pain and our emotions. So when someone says to me, hey, Amy, how do I love myself? I always like have to take a deep breath and I'm like, I just want to like hug that person and just sit with that person because I cannot give you an easy black and white answer because there's a process that's involved. It's not something that you're going to solve in one email. It's not something you're going to Google. And if you Google, you'll find the most bullshit articles on the planet. Go light a candle. Go read a book. Go for a walk. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, that's how we're going to love ourselves, asshole. We're going to go for a walk and light a candle and everything's going to be great. Learning how to love yourself is a process. Now, it is what I teach ultimately in the Irresistible You program that I teach online, our group coaching program. But it is a 12-week program. And then that 12 weeks, that is giving you the foundation to be able to create this irresistible life, this irresistible relationship with yourself. And that is the process. And even after those 12 weeks, it's not like you go through the program and you're like, oh, bing, bang, boom, I am like, the self-love warrior here. I got this. Self-love is something you have to work at the rest of your life. For those of you that are in relationships, is it like, oh yeah, you date someone, you marry someone, and it's just like, all right, well, cool now. Like, I never have to work on this relationship. No. If you are married or in a relationship and you don't work on that relationship, like, you're not intentionally working on the relationship together, guess what happens? 10 years go by and you're like, who the hell are you? I'm not happy anymore. I want out. You have to work at what you love. Just because you love someone or you love yourself doesn't mean everything just falls into place and it's easy all the time. So, it's this process with lots of layers that you have to unpack. And the reason why so many people struggle with self-love is because they're not willing to go in that closet and open up the boxes. And the people that have the most success, that are able to cross that bridge into self-love, that ultimately then crosses them into the bridge of living the life they crave, the life they know they've always wanted, are the people who are willing to open that closet, knowing when they open that closet, this is going to suck. This is going to be painful. But I know once I clear out this closet and I go through all the boxes, I know I'm better for it. I know that this is part of the process. And the reason why so many people don't have self-love and they're not willing to go in that closet is they don't want to feel pain. And your fear and avoidance and resistance of pain is actually what is keeping you stuck, feeling miserable about yourself and your life. Period. Because avoiding pain is what's putting you in the place you are right now of emotionally eating, gaining weight, repeating the yo-yo diet, body hate, shame cycle, because it's a way to distract and deflect from what you really don't want to deal with. Everybody that emotionally eats, that's on the yo-yo diet, body hate, shame cycle, is running from something, is avoiding something. Whatever that something is, whatever that pain is, you are avoiding it. And so, wanting to not feel pain is not the part of the process. The process is you will have to feel pain and you will have to walk through it. And it's going to feel messy and it's going to feel uncomfortable. But I promise you, on the other side of it is the life that you crave, is the experiences that you're putting on hold, is the version of you that you can't be until you get in there and go through those boxes and feel the pain you've been avoiding for years. What's on the other side of that is a life with your family or your children or your friends that you're not able to give them right now because you can't show up as your real self. The self that you're showing up as today, it's fake. It's a mask. It's a mask that's avoiding who you really are. You're holding yourself back. You're denying the world your actual true gifts, your actual true personality, because you're so fucking afraid of what somebody's going to say and how someone may judge you for it. That you judge yourself before you allow anyone else the opportunity. So you're actually showing up in the world a very fake version of yourself, a watered down, inauthentic version of yourself. Until you are willing to admit and say, I'm ready. I am ready, Amy. I want to go through that closet. I want to unbox this shit. I want to get in there because I know once I do that, I can move on to the next place. And it's just like this metaphor I'm using. It's like, I can't move to my bigger, better home until I get through these boxes, and it's a pain in my ass. And seeing some of the stuff that's in the closet is painful. Like the physical things in the closet, some of it, some of the photos, some of the memories, it's hard to see. It's bittersweet. You know, even this move is a very positive move. We're getting a bigger home. We're getting a nicer neighborhood. We're getting a better place for our family. And you guys, we're getting a pool. Oh my God. Side note, I'm so excited. And even though that is beautiful and I am so grateful to be at this place, and I've wanted to leave this neighborhood for so many years, it's this bittersweet feeling because this is the first home my husband and I purchased and owned together. I have spent literally almost my entire 30s in this house. I turned 30 like 2 months after I moved here. I'm going to be 39 in July. So almost my entire 30s was in this home. And your 30s is such a important decade. I started my business here. I started my podcast here. Chewy grew up here. Like Chewy was 2 years old when we moved. He's turning 11 in 2 weeks. 11, you guys. We brought our daughter home. I'm going to cry. Like, we brought our daughter home to this house. She's 3.5. We brought her home here. This was the house that, you know, the hurricanes and just all the things that happened and all the memories and some not so good, some beautiful. That's life. Life is that whole messy concoction of good and bad and ugly and beautiful all mixed up together. And I had a moment like the other night. I guess I didn't realize that was the last night I would put her to bed in her room as it was. Because then we tore it all apart the next day and I was like, oh, guess that was it. It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. And going through the process of how to love yourself, how to become irresistible you is also very bittersweet. It's bittersweet. It's just like that because it's like you're going to have to go through those boxes of pain that you've been avoiding. Because until you do that, you can't stop what you're doing today. You can't become who you want to become. But also, once you are able to go through the process, there's this bigger, better, beautiful life waiting for you. And you can't have that life until you stop doing the vicious cycle that you're doing right now, which is yo-yo dieting, weight gain, weight loss, hating yourself, beating yourself up, that whole yo-yo diet, body hate, shame cycle. You can't stop the cycle. Until you stop that cycle, you can't have the life you really want for yourself. And it's why I get so passionate and emotional about what I do, because I know what's possible for you. And for some of you, you can't see that yet. And you can't see it yet because you're sitting around on the floor surrounded by boxes and bullshit all around you, and you can't even see yet what's possible. And in the program that I teach, my online program, it's a hybrid. We have an online component coupled with weekly coaching. And in the program, I walk you through that process. We have a very structured process with 5 guiding principles with very specific action items that help you to navigate that process. Because it's not like you're going to read a book or read an article online and be like, okay, I got this. Even my podcast, I talked about this a few episodes back on the episode called Accountability. For a lot of people, there's a very small percentage of people who can listen to the podcast and piece some things together and hold themselves accountable and start. I see it all the time. I see your messages, I see your amazing pictures, and you're making changes, and that is awesome. For the large majority of people, they need someone to help them. They need someone to hold their hand, to coach them, to give them that accountability. Because the thing is, if we had built-in accountability and coaching, we would already be where we want to be, right? And so that's why in the program, we have the live coaching component, because I really feel like that's one of the most important pieces, because it holds you accountable to making changes. And just as a high level, some of the things that we go over that are part of the how do you love yourself process is we talk about the inner fat bitch chatter and the rules that you've created for yourself, the stories that you've told yourself, and how to break those rules, how to stop that inner fat bitch chatter, and how to move into radical self-awareness. Because when you've been listening to that inner fat bitch voice for so long, and just stacking stuff up on your boxes in there, you don't even realize what you're doing. So it's kind of like you're just zombie walking through it, going through the motions. And we have to get you to a place of radical self-awareness, because here's the rub. The inner fat bitch chatter doesn't go away completely. All right. You're still going to have bad days. You're still going to have ugly days. You're still going to have days where you don't feel yourself, right? The difference becomes when you're able to recognize, oh, there's the inner fat bitch. Girl, we ain't doing that today. Shut her down. Okay. It's having the radical self-awareness to know when that is happening. Okay. So we go over that in great detail. We also learn, and I teach you how to gain confidence before you feel ready, because you're never going to feel ready. So we talk about the concept of imperfect action. How do you take imperfect action when you don't feel like doing the things? Okay. How do you get in there and open those boxes when you still don't feel like doing it? And so we talk a lot about the concept of imperfect action. Another thing that we teach, and it's part of the process, is how to build a unconditional, loving relationship with yourself. Because when you are in the state that you are in now, you are probably a people pleaser. You are probably constantly staying busy because you are avoiding spending time alone with yourself. And let me tell you, I have seen this tenfold with COVID-19, when everybody was on lockdown. Some people still are. People that just could not stand to be home and alone with themselves. That's a problem. Okay. We work on how you date yourself, how to get to know yourself, how to build a loving relationship with yourself. So as you can start to see, there's not this, oh, do this and you're going to love yourself. It is a process. And it's a process that you have to keep working and working and working. It's not a one and done type of thing. Even the people that have gone through the program, you can ask them. It's not like they go through one, guiding principle 1, break the rules, and it's like, oh, I never had another bad thought about myself. So it's a process. And once you are open to that and you're willing to go through that, then you're ready for the program. Okay. One of the other things we talk about is mindful acceptance, and how to be present in your life, how to not distract yourself with food, busyness, other people, and how to mindfully accept this is who I am. This is where I am now. It doesn't mean I have to stay here, but this is where I am right here, right now. And you learn how to meet yourself where you are in your journey. Okay. The other thing too, that so many of you are not doing, and this is why I created this as one of the guiding principles in the program, we call it Get Your Glam On, but Get Your Glam On, what we teach in that process is how to take care of yourself. How do you take better care of yourself physically? How do you show up in the world the way that you want to show up? You know how maybe in your head you see yourself one way. I wish I could wear this, or I wish I could have this style. But then when you look in the mirror and you look in your closet, there's a disconnect. So in that principle, we teach you how do you create a signature style. Again, not where you want to be, but where you are right now. How do you meet yourself where you are right now? How do you create a signature style? How do you practice self-care? How do you just take better care of you? Enough of taking care of everybody else. And I'm not saying not to take care of other people, because some of us, especially if you're parents, you have to take care of someone. But if you're not taking care of yourself, you're setting a really shitty example for your children and for the people around you. I want that to sink in. If you're a parent and you are, bumming around, not taking showers, not doing yourself up, not getting yourself together, you're a hot, disheveled mess 24/7, what kind of fucking example are you setting for your kids? That you don't matter. That to take care of yourself is selfish. And you really got to think about, it's not just about you. Who else in your life is at stake if you don't do these things? Who else suffers when you don't love yourself? Because it's not just you. Because if you're in the place where you don't love yourself, I promise you're not a fun person to be around at the moment. So who else is suffering because you don't want to step up and do what you need to do to better yourself? You really need to think about that, because I promise you it's not just yourself. So those are just some of the things that we go through in the program. Like I said, it is a 12-week program, and that is really giving you this beautiful foundation to create the life you crave and the life you deserve. Because I'm going to say right now, life is too damn short for you to be sitting around stuffing more shit in your closets, not going through it, talking about, I'll get to it later. Girl, you ain't getting, hold on. You will not get to it later, okay? And you know it, and I know it. You're never going to get in there and open up them damn boxes later. So you either start facing some stuff now, or you continue to sit around miserable, rolling around on the floor in your wet blanket, because you get to make that decision. If you're sitting here listening to this podcast, you know there's another way. So if you're continuing to sit there in your wet blanket of misery, that is your choice. That is on you, boo. You get to decide, do I want to have an irresistible life, or do I want to continue to have this miserable bullshit life? You make that decision. And if what is happening in the world has not lit a fire under your ass, I don't know what else will. And what I mean by that is, look how quickly things can change. Look how quickly we can be sitting here in a pandemic and lose people we love. Look how quickly life just flipped the switch in 2020, okay? And if you've never understood how short and fast life comes at you, I want that to be your wake-up call. And you look back on the last decade of your life, what have you been doing? And are you really going to continue to do the same bullshit for the next 10 years? Come on, guys. Think about it. Really, really think about it. And that was what spurred my journey, okay? My journey was really kicked off. I was in my late 20s. It was during the recession. It was during the housing crisis. It was seeing all my friends that I cared about at work getting laid off. And I remember going, well, I was always like, well, someday I'm going to have the house with the pool. Someday I'm going to have a boat. Someday I'm going to have this. Someday I'm going to live my life this way. Someday I want to look like this. And I was like, bitch, aren't you tired of yourself? Aren't you tired of hearing someday? Get your shit together. It's either today or never at all. And that's what spurred me and propelled me into saying, okay, it's time to make changes. It is time to make big, sweeping, scary changes. Because I'm sick of hearing my shit. I'm sick of wallowing around in my wet blanket of misery. I'm sick of it. And, you got to think about that. You got to think about that. How much longer are you willing to not love yourself? And when you don't love yourself, write this down. Do some thought work after this episode. When I don't love myself, it makes my life look like ABC. And I want you to think about not loving myself is affecting my life in these different ways. Then you're going to go over and you're going to say, not loving myself is affecting my children and my family in these different ways. Not loving myself is affecting my career and my job in these different ways. And think about the different buckets in your life. And how you having a shitty relationship with yourself is actually affecting everything around you. It's an infection. It infiltrates into every area of your life. So it's easy to sit there and say, I hate being fat. I hate being overweight. I can't. If I could just lose the weight. It's not about the weight. The weight is one side effect of your bullshit that you're doing. It's an easy distraction from the real thing, which is, I don't like who I am. And so that not liking who you are, not feeling good about yourself, not being confident, not having self-worth, it's not just about the size of your clothes and the number on the scale. It's about your relationships. It's about your career. It's about your lack of career. It's about your quality of life, your social life. It is everything. Think about a marriage if the two people don't love each other. That's a shitty-ass marriage. That is a shitty-ass, boring, sexless, vanilla-ass relationship. How is that relationship with yourself? It's like the equivalent. It is a boring, vanilla, sexless, no intimacy, bullshit-ass relationship. A relationship that's loving is exciting. You want to go do things. You also are there for each other when shit goes south. You want to go on dates. You want to experience things. You want to try new restaurants, try new activities. It just is such a difference. Stop waiting around for someone else to love you, because it's not their job for you to love yourself. And I know I had someone that recently unsubscribed when I told her this advice, and it is what it is. She said that she hadn't felt good about herself until her boyfriend told her she was beautiful. And I'm like, well, that's not a cure for self-love, honey. If you're going to depend on a man to tell you you're worthy and you look good at their size and you're beautiful, what happens when he's gone? Your self-worth and your self-love doesn't come from your fucking husband or boyfriends or girlfriends or wives. It comes from you. So if you're sitting around waiting for your husband or your wife to sit there and just say shit to you they've never said in 20 years, good luck to you. That's not where your self-worth comes from. So what happens is because you don't have self-love and self-worth, you find yourself in these bullshit ass relationships where you're just tolerating mediocreness. And this is another I'm like getting on a tangent now and I was supposed to be wrapping things up. This is another reason why so many people are afraid to do the self-love work. They're afraid to go on the journey because you will lose people. Because when you don't have worth and self-love, you tolerate some bullshit. You tolerate some toxic people. And when you start to do this work, there's people that can't handle the better version of you because they like you being held down. They like you being their little bitch. They like you being their doormat. And when they realize that you are rising above that, it's intimidating and they don't want any part of it. So a lot of people, they don't want to ruffle the feathers. They don't want to, rock the boat. So they don't want to do the work on themselves. So they instead allow themselves to be miserable, to be less than, to live a life less than what they're capable of living because they're afraid of what someone else is going to say or that someone else is going to walk out. And what I say to that is, there's the door, boo. Bye. You don't need toxic assholes in your life. So, that's part of walking through the pain. Part of walking through that pain is I'm probably going to piss some people off. Because in order to become the version of yourself that you crave, you can't get there being the version of yourself you are today. And there is a version of yourself today that is people are only around you for what you can do for them. Because a lot of the women that are on this path, that are in this cycle, that are stuck in the yo-yo diet, body, hate, shame cycle, this is like rampant, are people pleasers. And being a people pleaser is being a fake version of yourself. Because the people that are around you, a lot of them are only around for what you're able to do for them, not because they actually love you unconditionally. But you're so fucking afraid of what they're going to think about you if you say, I can't do that for you anymore. I'm sorry, I have something else to do. You're so afraid that you're going to lose them. Lose them. They're not worth it. If someone is only your friend because you're putting up the facade of being a people pleaser, they're not your friend. Bye. So, my point in getting on this little tangent here, guys, my point here was that it's not about your weight. It's not about your size. It's not about what you look like in the mirror. That's like a symptom, a side effect of all this other stuff. When you don't love yourself, it's about how is this affecting your entire life? And are you willing to open the boxes of pain? Are you willing to open up that closet and deal with your stuff and stop shoving it down with the other boxes of pain and people pleasing and busyness and distractions and denial? That's all I got for you. I hope this episode was good. If it was, please head over to iTunes. We are still doing the journal giveaway. We're going to be sending out the first one very soon. So if you go to iTunes and you leave a rating and review and you screenshot it and you can DM it to me on Instagram, I am at Irresistible Icing. You will be entered to win one of my Irresistible You journals. So let me know. Go over and do that. I will catch you in the discussion group. If you have not joined, please request to join the free Facebook podcast discussion group. It is linked up in the show notes, and we will talk further about this episode. You can go in there anytime. You don't have to, do not wait for me to post things. You can go in there and post questions, wins, celebrations, anything like that that you want to post. You can do that in the group. So I hope you guys have an amazing awesome, irresistible week. I will see you on the next one. Until then, stay irresistible. Bye, guys.